Dearly beloved, we are all gathered here to celebrate Kelly Smith's first fiction book, The Wedding. We have seen two previous books from Kelly come out on abusive relationships and toxic relationships and healing from that toxicity. And now we've transitioned into fiction, and what we're still focused on the relationship aspect in The Wedding. Thank you for joining us for the launch. Thanks, Kelly.
Yes, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I couldn't have written it better myself.
So, The Wedding, talk to us a little bit about The Wedding and how you sort of made that transition from self-help and talking about your previous relationships to how we went to fiction, how we went to The Wedding.
So I'm excited about that. Thank you. That's a great question. I'm super psyched about The Wedding. I just want to talk about that for 1 second before I talk about the transition. The Wedding is so amazing to me because if you read my first book or even my second book, then you would know that I've always been a writer. I've always wanted to write fiction. It's always been just such a huge passion of mine. But growing up, it was frowned upon to do so in my household. So I wasn't really able ever to actually do it. So after I wrote my second book, I was like, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to just jump into the fiction world. So fun fact with The Wedding. This book started out, it has 4 female characters. It started out as just one. And then started writing this, oh my goodness, maybe 12 years ago. So
Wow.
I wrote like Sydney was my first character, and I love Sydney. She was my first character. So she started out as a short story. So I entered Sydney's story into a contest, and it did not win, but it did win because it came out in The Wedding. But so she started as my first character. And then a few years ago, I kind of wanted to test the waters a little bit more with fiction. So I wrote another like little short story about Grace. So some people maybe recognize that from my blog. So I wrote that her story was called Good Morning Beautiful. And that's in here too. So then I had to come up with 2 additional characters. So building these characters was probably like the most exciting thing I've done ever.
Yeah.
I
So
love
this
it.
has been a long time coming.
It has. So when I wrote Sydney, it wasn't like I was like typing on a typewriter and like getting sweat off my brow for 15 years. It was basically I wrote it and then it just kind of sat in my house. And actually when I moved into the house I was in previously, I found her story and I was like, oh man, look at this. And then I just started building off of it and kind of just went from there. So it's kind of been a long time coming, but fiction is definitely where I've always wanted to be. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's so amazing to have written that so long ago, but then through life's twists and turns, having your actual first 2 published stories
Mhm.
be, nonfiction and
Yeah.
about your life.
Yeah. And that transition I thought it was going to be easy, but it turned out to be not easy because in the genre I was in before with like, say, self-help, yada, yada, I had made a name for myself.
Yeah.
And, people kind of knew who I was, and it was getting there. When I switched over to fiction, whole new world. Like, what
Right.
is this place? 1 star, do not recommend. What is this? My publicist was like, yeah, so we can't work with you anymore. So I had to move on and try to find another publicist. Trying to find a publicist in the fiction world, also very difficult, but I am super pleased to announce I did find one. So I'm really psyched about that. So I have a lot of big things coming up for The Wedding. But that was a tough sort of thing. It was a lot more fun. My first book to write was like summoning the devil out of the darkness. And the second book was more fun to write, but it was about dating and all that fun stuff. But fiction, man, I loved it. I had so much fun with this. And I
Yeah.
wrote some of these scenes and I'm like, I can't believe this bitch is doing this. Like, what is she crazy? And it was like so funny because like I would start writing and then I had an idea, but then the characters would take over and go in a completely different direction. So it was always fun for me to see what was going to happen because I didn't always know.
Yeah. So you kind of let it develop organically as you felt like the characters were developing.
Yes. Yes. They started taking on like their own their own selves, I guess, and I wanted them to go here, and they're like, I'm going here. And I was like, whatever, just lead the way. Stop talking to me and let's just go. So
Yeah.
that's what happened. So it was really fun to see like what was going to happen with these characters for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So tell me a little bit about the character development, other than what you just shared with us. Where did you draw any inspiration from when you were developing your two characters that you hadn't previously written about?
So what's interesting about these four characters, the females, because there's obviously males in there too. But the females, when I first read this and had to read it back, I forget like what they look like, and so I make notes. So I went and I was writing down like what I gave them for a job and all this. And then I noticed after I was going over my notes, every single one had red hair, green eyes. And I'm like, okay, every character I ever make always has red hair and green eyes. And I'm like, talk about being a freaking narcissist. So, change their descriptions, kind of have them do like different things. But each character, and if you know me well enough, each character is me in a different stage of life.
Yeah.
So it was each one. So it's sort of, I didn't go through all the same things that each one went through, but to a degree, they resemble me enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know about you. I feel like there are so many different aspects of my own personality. And, I have my playful side and I have my very serious side. And, I feel like as you're reading about these characters and who they are and your description of them, you tend to find pieces of yourself in
Mhm.
them. So it doesn't actually surprise me that they're forms of you.
Yeah, they're all different, like forms of different times. Now, they also take on like traits of people I know.
Sure.
So some of them are not based off of, but I kind of went in direction of like one character is based off of one of my friends. And it wasn't done intentionally. And
Yeah.
I was funny because we were talking about it because she read it before it came out. And she's like, oh, she asked me all these questions. And she asked me about Piper. And she was like, what's up with Piper? She's a little bossy. And I was like,
Is it like looking in a mirror?
and it wasn't intentional, but Piper is also my favorite character.
Yeah.
Well, I love Piper. She's such an instigator. She's such a troublemaker. And I like her because she's also like creates kind of chaos a little bit, but then also fixes things up as well. So she has like her shit together. So I like Piper the best. There is one character I don't like. There is one. And every time I was writing, I was like, why is she even here? Like what? I don't like her. Like she makes terrible decisions. I don't understand her. Every group has one.
Right.
Group has one. And I'm just like, no, don't like her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
No.
always, you're right. It seems like in a friend group, there's always one that sort of stands out, but maybe she has a connection with one of the other friends, but you're thinking, I'm not as close with that friend, but
Yeah. Well, in every friend group, like if you have like a bunch of friends or whatever, I think like when people started reading this, they started reading this with their friends, which was so fun for me
yeah.
because everyone can kind of relate to each character. Like, oh, I'm a Sydney, I'm a Rachel, I'm a Piper, I'm a Grace. And it's so funny. And it's like, well, no, I thought I was the Piper. No, you're not. It's interesting to see how that goes. And I was texting with one of my friends the other day, and she was talking about boy drama. And she said, she's like, I have a Marcus, but I really want a Brax. Nope, that's for my next book. I know, not Brax, that's for my next book. So scratch that. Rand. I really want a Rand. So I was like, yeah, I'm like, you have a Marcus, but you need a Rand. So it's interesting how this, like, they're kind of coming out that way. Like the characters are taking on like their own forms, and people are really relating to who they are because we have all of these people like in our lives at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, through our dating experiences, I feel like people come, people go, but it's fun the way that you described the characters in your book.
Mhm.
Um, but it kind of leads me to my next question, which I feel like you let the cat out of the bag a little bit. Do you have projects in the works? new
Yes.
things coming up?
Yes, I have, my next one is with my editor. The other one I'm almost done writing, which is like a part two of that book. And then I have a new one that I'm writing, and I'm excited because the way that I'm writing, so the wedding is fluffy and cake and friends and pink and purple and blah, blah, blah. But the next one is a little bit darker. And then
Okay.
next one after that is a little bit darker. But the one after that that I'm writing is pitch black.
Oh, wow.
And I am going from pink fluff all the way to the dark side. And I've always wanted to write sort of thriller, horror, tormented sort of things, but I was afraid that the cops are going to come.
Like, right. There's legitimate concern about you as a person if
Yeah.
you're going to go down that path.
Yeah. And then like, it's funny because like Stephen King obviously writes his stuff, and he's like, and he hasn't been to jail because of his words. So I'm like, maybe I'm just gonna do it and just see how it goes. So I do have plans. So I have the one is with the editor right now. I'm calling that one The Ultimate Baby Trap. The next one I'm almost done with, and then the third one I'm outlining in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really formulating.
Yeah. That's,
I'm excited about that one.
yeah, that's exciting. I mean, in sticking with that theme of, the different aspects of our personality and, different characters and whatnot, I am excited to see how you, and we've had these conversations in private about obviously how much of a beautiful writer I think you are, but how much I love the way that you describe um just everything in your books. It's like you're there. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see what that transitions to as we head down a little bit of a darker path.
Oh, it's gonna get a lot more detailed.
Yeah.
It'll be killer.
Now, are we talking about like 50 Shades of Grey sort of details, or like
No,
we're talking
okay,
about
no.
like,
No, we're
okay,
going all the way dark, just horrible darkness. But
okay,
um, it's funny that you bring that up, 50 Shades of Grey. I am not a sex writer. I am not.
okay.
So in the wedding, I remember being in my office writing, and my son's dog was next to me, and I'm writing this like sex scene, and I'm just not comfortable with that stuff. And he looked at me, and I was so embarrassed. I'm like, he knows that I'm writing. I'm like, this is horrifying. So I sent it to the editor. She's like, hey, like these sex scenes kind of come out of nowhere, and they're like in your face. I'm like, should we get rid of them? And she's like, maybe. I'm like, oh, thank God, because it's not my thing. I
Yeah,
mean, there is some steamy pots in this, there definitely is, but it's been toned down like a lot because it's really not my thing. And I'm just like, I guess I get like, what are people gonna think when they read this? You know, and
right.
me personally, like when I go to the DACA side, are they gonna think I'm this horrible, like murderous, torturing type person? I'm not. I'm super nice. Like I'm not gonna do that. But like it's in my head and it needs to come out. So it was the same way with like the sex scenes in this book. But then the
Yeah,
next book is a little bit more risque, if you will.
yeah,
So there's more in the next two books than there is like in this one. So, but I'm not much of a sex writer.
yeah.
That's what they're called. I have no idea. But I have some friends that are writers and they write smut, I guess they call it. I don't know. But
Sure.
it's not my bag. So no, 50 Shades of Grey was actually poorly written. I don't know if you ever read that garbage, but it was terrible. Anyway, but no, we're not going, we're going a little more Saw.
Okay. Yeah. We're going down like a True Detective sort of path.
Yeah, we can say
Okay.
that. Type it up.
Okay. All right. Good to know. So, going back to the wedding and the way that you actually wrote this book, what gave you the idea to kind of it's written like you said, it's sort of this light and fluffy book, but it's almost written like a mystery because we're jumping back and forth. How did you get the idea to do that?
Well, so when I first submitted this to my publisher, my editor sent it back to me. Well, she called me and it wasn't written this way at all. And she called me and she's like, ah. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, you just rewrite this. I'm just, bringing it down. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I was like, because the premise of this book was someone is getting married. One of the four friends is getting married. But
Mm,
so
right.
throughout the book, we figure out why they're friends, how they became friends. They're either broken up with somebody or in the middle of breaking up with somebody. They meet new people, they lose new people. They're all in a brand new area. But it's basically, friends living their lives and falling in and out of love and losing people and stuff like that. But then one of them gets married. So we're following these relationships. And I have four females and I think 6 or 7 males, something
Yeah.
like. So they all, get matched up, or and it's like, it's really interesting to see, like, okay, who's it going to be? Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be that one? Is someone going to die? Is someone not going to die? I did kill 2 people in this. So really interesting to kind of do that too. It's not gruesome or anything, but they had to die. They just did. So when my editor gave it back to me, I was like, were you surprised at who got married? And she literally said to me, I was surprised, but I didn't care. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, okay, I want you to write this book from the perspective. I want every single perspective at every single moment. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And her words were so encouraging. And she said to me, you'll figure it out.
Oh,
So
from
I,
the heart.
and she wasn't mean or anything. She was so nice because she
Yeah.
just, first she's like, you'll figure it out. And I was like, okay. So I hung up the phone. I cried for about, I don't know, 4 days. And then within a week, I rewrote the whole thing. And I got every single perspective from every angle possible. And then I sent it to her and she's like, oh my God, this is a completely different book. So she knew who got married, but she was like, I can't believe who got married, because she was invested. So the way that I did it was I had to get the reader invested in the wedding and who is it. So I started writing the first chapter, the second chapter, and then out of nowhere, it's the proposal. Like, wait a
Right.
minute, what's going on? And then it's a few more chapters, and then it's the bride telling the friends that, I'm engaged and all excited. And then it's the dress shopping and the cake shopping, and then they pick up the venue all throughout the whole book. So when you get to the end of the book and you find out who gets married, there are no questions about the wedding, because we went through the engagement party, all of the things. So it was like so fun to basically design an entire wedding for my character, and see how they got there. Like, you see all their struggles throughout the whole book, and you read it and you're like, well, could it be this person? Could it be who the hell is getting married? And I'll tell you what, everyone that's read the book so far has not guessed it right.
Yeah.
They were like, this is who I think it is. And I'm like, okay. And then when they get to the end of the book, they're like, oh my God, I did not guess that right. I'm like, no, you didn't. So it was interesting. So the way I set it up was like, who the hell is getting married? But when you get there, it's like so exciting, because it's like, oh my God, like they made it. Like
Right.
they made it. And it's like such an exciting thing. And they just love each other so much. And you can see all the stuff that they went through to get to this place where they want to be together.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a unique way to have written this story. And
Yeah.
so it's exciting to see how that developed.
Yeah.
So I think that you shared with us that you have a favorite character in your book.
Yeah.
Where so with Sydney, was that more heavily, would you say, based on yourself and the way that you see yourself?
Mm.
I mean, we said that these are all sort of like parts
Mhm.
of you and pieces of you and whatnot. Do you think that
So
Sydney, you resemble her the most?
physically, yes.
Okay.
But the reason why I relate myself to Sydney is because she dipped out of where she lived and started a whole new life somewhere else by herself.
Okay.
Goals.
Yes.
Goals. Like, and I remember writing this a long time ago, and I hate to say this, when I was still married, and I was like, I just want to get the fuck out of here. So I wrote how she just like dipped out and kind of did her own thing. I mean, she didn't like leave anybody behind, but you'll have to, when you read it, you'll see why she actually did it. But then I gave her this really great relationship with her grandmother.
Right.
Yeah. And then, you know, and the things that she's able to do with like the relationship she has with her grandmother, and you know, her like love interest, and like what happens with him. His name is her first love interest is Daniel. But something terrible happens to him, so she has to rebuild. So each character kind of has something that they're dealing with, they have to heal from, and they have to
Yeah.
recover, and they have to like get through. You know, it's losing your first love, the love you thought you were going to marry. Piper loses her first love, and she's like, why doesn't he want to like move away with me? And she deals with that. But then old love comes face to face with new love, and she meets this amazing guy. His name is Rand, and he's fucking awesome. Like I love
Yeah.
him. I'm like, this guy's fucking great. So, but then sometimes they make these messed up decisions, and I'm just like, come on, Piper. Like, what are you doing right now as I'm typing it? I'm like, what a fucking idiot. So, you know, she does some stupid shit. And then Grace, I fucking can't stand her. She's such an idiot. She just makes like decisions just off the cuff, and gets herself into a situation because she's an idiot. But yeah, I mean, so they all kind of go through some kind of loss, and they all have to like heal from something and like figure some stuff out on their own. But they have their friends to do it with. So they're not alone. And at times the friends can be like, you're a complete idiot. What are you even doing right now? But then they're like, you know, but we'll have your back, even though you keep messing these things up. So it's real life situations that happen with our friends, and how you can have your little circle and have, you know, your like job and your boyfriend or whatever on the outside, but then you always come back to your friends.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's your lifeline, your bloodline, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Um, I mean, I know that writing, a lot of people think that it like, oh, that's so easy. It's not easy. And you know that, I know that. We've had many conversations about that. What would you say was the most difficult part of writing this book?
Reading it back.
Yeah.
I hate reading it back. I hate it so much. It's the worst part of it for me is reading it back. I don't know what it is. I don't like to, I haven't read this book since it's been a book, because I don't want to read it. I mean, I love it. And sometimes I like open it up and then I'm like, oh, God. So I get like secondhand embarrassment. Don't ask me why, but I don't like to read it back. Like I want to read this, but I don't want to read it back. So reading it back in editing is the worst. Like writing
Mm,
the actual
yeah.
story was fun, and coming up with like the cover was so fun, and like figuring out where they all lived and their backgrounds and their quirks and their allergies and like things that they liked and things that they don't like, and their personalities just shine through so much. Whereas like
Yeah.
to me, they're real. Like
Right.
super like
Right.
I was like setting this up today, and I'm thinking of my bride, my actual bride and groom. And I'm like, oh man, this is like all the stuff, you know, that they had at their wedding. So they had that same
Yeah.
cake, all these different things. So I'm like, this is like for them. And I'm like, dude, they're not even real. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know, but it's like I was excited for them when I was like, you know, getting everything ready for them.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel like what we're looking at right now, are these going to sort of clue us in to when we find out at the end who it is? Is it going to make sense?
No, because I described that cake, but it has flowers on it. And then I described the winery. This winery here is
Yeah.
this is the coolest cover. I love it so much. But when I was going, because they get married at a winery, but I was going back to my trip I went to Italy,
Mm-hmm.
pictures of a winery, and I actually, it's so funny because I found in my phone this exact same picture of the same winery I was at in Italy, which I still order wine from all the time. So I love it. It's so delicious. But I was like, oh my God, that's the same thing. I just couldn't, it like blew my mind, which is probably why I loved it so much. But no, these are definitely not clues. They definitely drink alcohol at their wedding. They definitely have cake at the wedding, and it's definitely at a winery. But these are the things that you discover as you're reading through.
Right.
So yeah, so you'll see like how they pick their venue and how many venues they go to and how often they fight when they're picking stuff out, and her bridal gown and like all the stuff that they go through, and like, but it was interesting because I had to write this where I could not say any names. So how do you write about an entire engagement party without using any names, right? So
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, how the heck am I going to do this where it's like all their friends and family are there, all these things are there. I have the location, but they have to have some kind of dialogue. And I pulled it off
Yeah.
like a freaking champ. So when I did it, I was writing it and I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm like, this is like so so I would sit back and just be like, "Ah, I did it. This is perfect." Then my editor would go through and she would like, point stuff out and she's like, oh, this was a really good little teaser right here. And I got all excited because I can't use any names in they're like italics. So I can't use any names. So I have to use, other things. There is one thing that's the same. I think I gave each character throughout the whole book to throw everyone off. And I can't really say what that is because I don't know if I gave every character. I'm pretty sure I did, but I'm not gonna, I'll tell you later, but I'm not gonna say it on this. But
Okay.
one
Yes.
thing, they all did the same thing. And I don't know if anyone's picked up on it yet.
Yeah. Uh, well, there's, like I said, it's so interesting and it's so unique to have this kind of cool, light, fluffy, girly book about friendship, but it's also like you're reading a murder mystery. So, you know,
You know what? It's so funny because my publisher, when we were talking about the cover, she's so funny. She made me laugh so hard. She was like, I was like, it's like a what did I said it's like a mystery. She
yeah.
goes, she's like, oh, do you want me to put like blood on a cake? I was great. I laughed. I still laugh at that. It's so funny. I'm like, no, like this is not that kind of a mystery. But it was so
Right.
funny to me. I was like, no, 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 no. So it is a mystery.
Yeah.
It's like who is the bride? Who is the groom? Because they all four of them get themselves into crazy situations. So
Yeah.
each girl's story is done. There's a cliffhanger for each one.
Yeah.
So you don't find out and none of the cliffhangers are resolved until the last chapter, until
Okay. Yeah.
on the way to the wedding. So it's like you see the wedding invitation is in the book. The wedding invitation is in there because you turn the page and boom, there it is. And you see who's getting married. And then that chapter is, them getting ready to go to their wedding and they're updated. They're having a conversation on the way to the wedding that we all know what it looks like, but they're updating each other on the friends and where they are and oh, whatever happened with this. Oh, hey, did you hear about this? So you get like everything is like settled in the last chapter.
Yeah. Resolution at the end, huh?
Yeah, the cliffhangers are no longer cliffhangers. I had someone read the book and I was like, hey, what'd you think? And she's like, oh, is there gonna be a sequel? I'm like, a sequel? I'm like, oh no, like why would there be a sequel? And I'm like, did you guess who got married? She's like, no, but I think it's so and so. I'm like, what do you mean you think? And she's like, well, this is how it ended. I'm like, keep scrolling. And then she sent me a message and she's like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, I had no, and she was like so psyched. And she's like, I didn't go one more, like, cause she was reading it on the computer. She didn't go up like one. So she didn't get to see like the finale of like everything coming
uh,
together. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I love it. I think it's such a fun idea.
yeah, it's great. So, where can people get this book? Where can they find it?
So you can get it on Amazon. It's paperback and Kindle. I'm gonna start recording for Audible soon, but not quite yet. You can also get it on my website, kellysmithauthor.com. You can also get it at Book People here in Austin, Texas. You can just order it online and they can ship it. And then I'm also going to be in the Sunday Bookshop. It's also in Texas here. We're talking right now about getting that book on the shelves there. But so it's starting to grow a little bit. So I'm really excited. It's starting to grow, but right now, Amazon or my website.
That's so great. I mean, you've already won a couple of awards from this book. This is like the perfect girlfriend book club kind of book.
Yes. Yes, it
Yes.
definitely, yes, it did. I got a first place for Friendship Sisterhood in a fiction book. So yeah, I mean it really is. It's really great. And these characters mean a lot to me. And the male characters are interesting too. So I thought they were super fun to kind of write them and give them their dialogue and all the stuff that kind of happens and like trying to figure out like how men think.
Which is not easy for us,
Yeah,
you know.
because who the hell knows what the hell they think? I think I a dial tone in their head all the time. So I'm just like,
Right.
do they even know anything? But it was definitely fun writing like both sides of it and like getting the characters together and figuring it out.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And so where like what else can you share with us? You have any shout outs that you want to give? Just anything else you want to share about this beautiful book that's coming out and what you want people to know?
The beautiful book that came out in
Yes,
September.
that we're celebrating today.
You're so funny. I just am, I want to talk about my cake for a second, but I also, I'm just like super psyched about this. I'm really proud of it. I dedicated this book, book dedications are super special. So when I thought about this book dedication and I was like, this is the first fiction book that I've ever written, and it had to go to someone super special. That's so funny. I'm getting so emotional. So I dedicated it to myself. Because like
Yeah,
growing up, my family, my mom was basically like, no, this isn't real. Like, you're not going to be good at this and you're terrible. So I was like, you know what? I'm dedicated to that third grader inside me
yeah,
that just wanted to write. And
yeah,
now, so I'm super psyched about that. But yeah, it's a great book and I loved it and I love looking at it. And I'm just super proud of like all the hard work and dedication I put into it. And I'm excited about my next projects that are coming out. So yeah, I'm really just really overall just proud of it. So
yeah,
I've never been to a wedding before. So this was my first time and most likely my only opportunity. But I'm excited about being able to have that somewhat of an experience and how fun it was, even though I was living vicariously through my characters. So yeah, but I wanted to say my cake, I don't know if you can see it because we've been trying to fix it,
yes,
but I love the naked cake. I think it's like,
yeah,
and my characters also love it. In the book it's decorated, but I really wanted one that was just like that. But I was excited because I ordered this from Bake and Bite. And this is a girl in my neighborhood. And it's so funny because like I asked the neighborhood, like, hey, does anyone know who can like make a cake? And every single person said this one lady. And I can see her house from my house. So she's like right there, which is
oh,
like
nice.
down the street with this wedding cake today. But her thing is Bake and Bite. So if you're in the Austin area, definitely check her out. She's really cool. So it's BAKEN, not bacon, like bacon. It's Bake and Bite. Great taste in every bite. So yeah, I'm excited about that, but that was awesome. And I can't
Uh,
wait to try it. I'm so psyched to like try this, cut this cake and see how delicious it is.
yeah, you have far more willpower than I do because I would have already like that cake would have had a slice out of it already. So
Yeah, I thought about like cutting it in the back.
yeah, nobody would ever know. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I was like, that is too risky. So I'm not super eating like cake right now, but I'm also not drinking either. So I have alcohol and cake. So I'm like, what am I gonna do with this stuff? I just put it in the closet. I don't know. But I am gonna try a piece of that cake because I don't know how to cut it, but and maybe I could just take a grab of it and just shove it in my face like people do
Yeah,
at weddings.
like cake smash. Yeah, do your own cake smash.
That's actually hilarious. I would be so pissed if someone came smashed me. But yeah, other than that, yeah, like I'm just like super psyched and I'm excited to launch this officially. So it came out in September. Um,
Yes.
got it on Kindle, it's on Amazon, and now it's officially launched. It's out there. For anyone that wants to read it or have book clubs with their friends, I'd be more than happy to come and like talk and like answer questions. And if there's one thing I love, it's talking about these characters. So yeah, if anyone wants to do that or send questions about anything that they have or confused about, because there were some people that were confused about a few things, which I thought was interesting, but I had to clear up a few things. But yeah, so I'm just super psyched. And thank you so much for doing this for me. I really appreciate it in your busy schedule over there, all the way in cold ass Alaska. Yeah, so
You know, I'm always here for you. I'm
are you
always
wearing like Eskimo shoes? What are those called?
the mucklucks.
Are you wearing them now? Do you have snowshoes on right now? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have been able to do this with you. I mean, we've had a lot of little adventures and been friends for a while now. And so I'm stoked that I could be a part of this journey in any capacity and just celebrate you. And I think that you're such a wonderful writer and you have so much talent. And I'm excited to see what comes out next and just celebrate you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so get in touch with Kelly if you have any questions about the book and or any comments or thoughts or requests for, like she said, her book club, any book club requests for a guest appearance. And I now pronounce this book launched.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Woo woo, launched.
Thank you for joining us, everybody.